Okay, so hi everyone and welcome back to yet another episode of Faith Brunel's Insights. Hi everybody, and I'm Faith Brunel. Today we have Steph with us. Hi Steph, welcome to the show. Great to have you here today.
Hi Faith.
Hi. Could you introduce yourself to the listeners for us, please?
Hi everybody. So my name is Steph Pincher. I'm an associate and I work at the Medical Accident Group based in our Birmingham office. Aside from wearing my solicitor hat, I'm a trustee at my local church in Dudley. I'm also an advisor to the Bishop of Worcester. Aside from all of that type of stuff, I'm a mother to two young boys called Raymond and Doug, and have a husband at home as well.
Oh, lovely. That's really, really nice. That's lovely. Thanks, Steph, for sharing those as well. It's really good that you told the listener a bit about your, your work life or your personal life as well, because that's really nice to hear, and it's wonderful that you're doing so much as well, raising two young boys and working as well. It's really commendable though.
They say really a lot of bringing your whole self to work, so it's not just about me being the lawyer, it's me with all the other stuff I've got going on, and that all adds to your your character and what you bring to the table.
I completely agree, Steph. I share the same sentiment. It really does, bring it all to the table, and it sets the scene as well as to who you are, what you're doing, and what you enjoy as well. So thanks again, Steph, for being so transparent with us and sharing that. So how's your week been this week?
So my week has been really busy actually. You find in the run up to Christmas that you're trying to get a lot of things wrapped up before the holidays.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get conferences in, instructions sent off, chasing those last minute outstanding things. And so it has been busy. On top of the fact that we've had the government announcement of Plan B. I am in the office today because I've had to come in to get some things done. But it's never a quiet moment.
Never a dull moment, especially
That's right.
with COVID-19 being so rampant and having such an impact on everything we do in our everyday lives, from traveling to our work, where we're working as well, because obviously the government issued out a statement saying if you can work from home, please do. And I personally do think, obviously, as a university student, although I live in London, I do believe that for the second semester in January they will put us online, or it might be a hybrid between online and in person, right? So anything optional or anything that doesn't have to be in person can be online, because politics is quite flexible. It's not like science. I'm not working in a lab, right? So I can sit at home.
It doesn't have to be hands-on, does it?
No.
Fortunate for you.
Exactly. Good. So maybe I'll still be in Birmingham studying online in January. Only God really knows about that, but I'm just gonna keep watching the news, keep following some certain accounts on Twitter, and keep up to date with the latest news and updates that Boris Johnson and his government will release.
That's all we can do.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, this question stems pretty nicely from Boris Johnson and what he's doing and what he's implementing as well. But as a lawyer, what is your view about the government, making it mandatory to take the vaccine? And where does human rights come in? Now, this isn't necessarily in the UK, obviously, it's not mandatory as of yet, but we have seen in other countries that it is becoming mandatory. So what are your thoughts about, what are your thoughts about this, retaking into consideration human rights?
I don't know if I'd probably want to answer this on the podcast, just because it's sort of more political.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to cut that out. To be fair, I'm really happy to freestyle. But I think because I'm naming the firm as well, I'm just going to try and keep it neutral in terms of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do, if you don't want to answer that question particularly, we can just talk about maybe things like more generic then, so you don't have to share your political, because I understand what that's like, right? If someone asks me a question, I'm not answering that. Even though I'm a politics student, I like to keep my political views kind of hidden in a sense, right? So I understand that. So I mean, we've already talked a little bit about we mentioned before COVID-19. I think we've touched upon it. So if you don't want to answer that question, by no means feel pressured. Do you want to just skip past that?
Yeah, if we could.
Yeah. No, I understand that, especially being in the office, you might say different things than you would if you were at home. Because obviously you've got certain people listening, colleagues. It's true. It really is true. That's why, I completely understand it.
Okay, thank you.
No, honestly, it's up to you as well, right? Don't ever feel pressure to answer a question anywhere, you know, even if it's my podcast or someone else's. If you don't want to answer it, it's up to you. I don't want you to feel so uncomfortable, like, oh my gosh, no. I want you to feel like, okay.
Yeah, it's such an interesting debate that I have offline with my husband all the time. But yeah, because I had to go in the office today, so
it's different. I understand. So before I actually ask this question, then let me quickly go through it. Are you happy to talk about what you do in your spare time, or do you want to gloss over that? If that's too personal.
I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to talk about being a trustee. I'm fairly new to the role, really, so it'd only really be a summary of
it could still be interesting though to see the way you use your time, right? So you kind of use your time in the legal world, but also you step out of that and you have your interests and your hobbies as well. We show the good work-life balance. That'd be good.
Yeah, okay.
Even if you know it's up to you.
I didn't prep. I've got to be honest, because of your questions, I literally just focused on those bits. But that's fine. Let me just pull up some of the stuff I've.
That's the thing with me. No, it's okay. That's the thing with me.
I like it. It's better.
I'm just saying, it's like I don't like to always follow. That's why I always make the draft, right? Because I might just come up with some questions on the spot. I think it goes nicely, but obviously to get to the stage where you're like, oh my gosh, no, I can't talk about that, then we can just gloss over it. And that's why I love editing. Editing's a powerful tool.
Okay, it is helpful, isn't it? Let me just
I'll pause it while you. Okay, Steph. So this is what. Excuse me. Right, I'm back. So, Steph, what do you do in your spare time?
So, in my spare time, as I mentioned, I'm a trustee for the Dudley Resources Churches Trust, and this was set up in the Diocese of Worcester for Top Church Dudley. Right. What it means is that they've had a pot of money awarded to them for the upkeep of the church and for various projects and outreach to the communities that we help achieve our objective as a church in England, in reaching the community and being a tangible church. So as a trustee, I haven't been in the role for too long, but as a trustee, as a board member, I assist with making decisions in the running of the church, essentially, which is, for me, something that's varied. It's different to what I do in my day-to-day job as a clinical negligence lawyer. So it adds a bit of variety. And for me, you know, I go to church, I want to be able to give back. So it's very satisfying.
Yeah, it sounds quite interesting, Steph, and thanks for sharing that once again. I think that, you know, for me, obviously, as a churchgoer, I've always been a Christian since a young age, well, since birth, basically. I've been born into the church, and for me, I really admire that and, you know, commend that once again for giving back to your community. There's always, you know, such a reward and such an enjoyment in giving back to the community, a community that you are a part of as well, and that you want to help as well. So thanks, Steph, for sharing that. I actually do understand what you're talking about being a trustee. I'm not a trustee myself, but my dad is actually the chair of the board of trustees for our church. He's actually the chair, and he always meets with them, to discuss certain issues that would benefit the church, you know, talk about the financial situation and sort out, you know, various different things. So it is quite a rewarding role, and it is quite beneficial as well to help other people. So Steph, thank you for sharing that, and I think you might be able to hear my notifications in the background. That's just what happens when you sync your phone to your iMac. So everyone, those who have two Apple devices, I'm sure you can relate. Hopefully it won't continue to ping during the interview. Just give me a second, Steph. I'm going to try and fix that. That's the thing, because okay, so thank you, Steph, for all of the insights that you've shared so far into this episode. Everyone, in the next section, we're going to be basically diving into Steph's educational history, work experience, and asking her some questions about law. Okay, so Steph, let's talk a little bit about your educational history. So the first question I want to ask you is, what caused you to study law at Birmingham City University?
So I've always studied locally.
Right.
I attended a Stourbridge College, which was local to where I lived.
Yeah.
And for university, I wasn't looking for this big experience that often happens when students move off campus. Move onto campus. I wanted to be able to stay at home with them, with my family. So I was looking at local universities, ones that had a good reputation and that in terms of their teaching methods, a lot of on-site study time.
Right.
Because some I know have more of a remote learning style. It was a long time ago now, but for me, I preferred it. In my head, I treated it as though it was a full-time job, 9 to 5, and I'd get myself on campus. Yeah.
Kind of is,
You have those spare pockets of time. I'd be in the library studying, and then it was a long commute. It would take on average like 2 hours to get to Perry Bar from Dudley. But it was part and parcel of my determination really to get myself where I wanted to get to. So I did the LB honours degree there, and when it came to the legal practice course, as you'll know, there's various institutions where you can attend.
Yeah.
But again, I decided to remain with BCU just because I built up such a good reputation with the tutors. They knew I was studious. They knew who I was. They, if I had questions, they were just so helpful. And I think if you've got that good interpersonal relationship with all of your tutors, it just led me to feel more confident and more comfortable embarking upon the LPC.
Thank you, Steph, for sharing such great insights. And it really sounds interesting sitting here listening to you talk about that process for you to, choose that university and the education institution that you would be there for to undertake your law degree. So just to quickly ask then, was your law degree 3 or 4 years then, your undergraduate? Was that 3 or 4?
It's 3 years, and then the LPC was 1 year.
Okay, so 4 years in total. So for the 4 years of your life, you were at BCU. I want to pick out a couple of things that you said. So you mentioned that you went to Stourbridge College. I actually went to King Edward's College in Stourbridge as well. I went to King Edward's College in Stourbridge.
Wow,
fun
that
time.
is so close to me.
Yeah.
So that was quite a commute for you. Were you in Birmingham?
Yeah, it was a 2-hour commute every day, 2 hours. I had to leave my house at 7 a.m. To get a 7:23 train. Let's say I finished at 4, I'd get back for like 5:36. It was a lot.
Gosh.
Right, but it was a college that I thoroughly enjoyed. I love the courses, so I studied studied English, literature, politics and law, and I loved it. So I thought, you know what, it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Yeah, my friend actually lives in Handsworth, right? And she was very near to me. And we used to sometimes meet on the train. So it was easier traveling with somebody so that you kind of knew as well.
Definitely.
Also, a couple of things, Steph, I want to pick out that you talked about how, when you are choosing an institution, it's really good to research the teaching methods, research the type of course. And to all the listeners who are tuning in today, I'd definitely say when you are choosing a course, choosing a university, have a look at the way they teach. Have a look at the kind of style, of the teaching as well. Is it mostly practical? Is it theoretical? What does it really entail? What's it made up of? Because that's really going to make you, that's really going to help with that crucial decision, because it is a crucial decision. It is a crucial decision.
It is, and there's a lot of investment. This is investment in me, in my education, and I learn better if I have to get myself there, get out all my books, get out all my prep, and sit and listen to somebody talking about it rather than reading it. I mean, obviously, as you know, I read all the time. But in terms of my method of learning, I prefer to hear somebody discuss, have a discourse about the topic. And then I can go around, do the reading around that subject as you would do. But for me, that was my preferred style of absorbing information.
And then for you, Steph, that was the kind of catalyst that caused you to choose law at BCU, because they tick those boxes, right? They tick those metaphorical boxes, and if you did write it down, it would have ticked boxes on paper as well. So I think that's really important to echo to the listeners, that you must really take that necessary time to decide for yourself, am I gonna go somewhere just because everyone else is going there? Am I gonna follow others, or am I gonna go somewhere because I want to? And Steph, it's really interesting how you knew you wanted to stay with your family and you chose universities according to that, right? Whereas with me, I was a bit mixed. I didn't know whether I wanted to stay or go, so I applied for a mixture. So I think, to be honest, 4 of the 5 were in London, 1 was in Birmingham. So I knew I wanted to leave, right? And then I thought, just in case, let me have a backup, which was the University of Birmingham. So, you know, for me, I made that decision, and so it's really subjective, really depends on the person.
It really is.
I think that, you know, doing your research is necessary. You have to research the course in detail. It is, thank you, it's crucial. You also mentioned that you have to commute to Perry Bar. My constituents is actually Perry Bar.
Pardon?
You know, my constituency is actually Perry Bar. So we live,
really?
So where you would have commuted, I live like 10-15 minutes away.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was a painful commute. Gosh, sometimes 2-3 buses, and it was funny because other students would say, you know, oh, we've got, you know, we finish early because it's a Friday and it's 2 o'clock. Whereas for me, obviously I'd hang around, do whatever follow-up reading I needed to, but it would still take me 2 hours to get home.
Yeah.
So I never had an early finish. But I think it's quite developing of your character.
Definitely.
I did that every day for so long, and I hadn't known to drive by then because I thought, well, you know what, I'm a student. I just don't want something that I've got to have responsibility for. That's going to cost money.
That's me.
So to keep costs down, that's what I did, and I think you develop a bit of grit.
You do develop a lot of grit because you develop that kind of stamina and resilience as well. Because for me, traveling got me ready for London, right? So in London now, I'm jumping on 2 different tubes. I've got to travel, and if I am commuting in the future, I'm now used to it, right? And it makes me more dedicated because I had to wake up at 6:30. I had to leave for 7 a.m. I had to wake up for 6 a.m. every day, or most days when I had an 8:40.
Something as simple as, you know, your commute. What you're acquiring is your ability to be organised, to be punctual, and to be conscientious. You know, I can't stand being late. It's one of my things. So I think all of those years, and in the morning my parents would say, oh gosh, Steph is like a whirlwind. I know what time I need to leave the house. I know the minute. I know exactly what I need to do. It's quite a measurement. But I think these are all really good skills that you do need to have to succeed in these skills. Yeah,
definitely. You know, Steph, that's really commendable because you showed that you really cared about your studies. And for you know, you saw it as that 9-to-5 job. So you placed a high value and importance in your learning and in your education, in your studies, and that would have really helped you now for when you are a lawyer, because you would have built up those skills. And, you know, it's never too early to start building up those skills of time management. And, you know, I hate being late. I hate walking into the lecture hall late or the seminar late. It's awkward for me, so I always set out an hour to leave. I only live half an hour away from uni, but I leave within an hour just in case the tube shuts down, in case I want to grab a prep from grab a coffee, hang out with some friends or whatever, or study or read or whatever. I have to always take into consideration exactly. And also, Steph, I love what you said about how, you know, you stayed at BCU because you had that interpersonal relationship with your tutors, and that's the benefit of staying on. Whereas, you know, I think I love how you really had that reputation and you had that experience and that relationship with your teachers. And I really hope that was an enjoyable experience. And it sounds it, right? Because BCU is a good institution as well. I'm really glad that you enjoyed your experience, because that's what learning is all about. It's about learning something new and enjoying every step of it. Obviously, there'll be hardships and struggles. But yeah, I think it's just, like you say, it was something that was new to me. I was the first person in my family to have gone off to university, so it was quite a big deal. And these figures, when you're talking about the tuition fees, to my parents, they just can't wrap their head around it. They just think, you know, extortionate. But I was very determined, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. And yeah, I think the personal relationship I had was because I was taking it so seriously, and I was always, you know, confident to go up to the teachers and approach them, to knock on their door and say, look, can I have a bit of your time? Yeah, I just felt that for me, I could tell, you know, the teachers, they want to be there, they want to teach, they're just excited to teach, not to learn. So they were always more than happy to do that. And because, you know, my 3 years, they were fantastic. I absolutely loved my time at university. It's kind of a no-brainer really that I was going to stay there. I've fairly quickly looked at what other institutions had on offer, and you know, if it's not broke, why fix it? Why fix it?
So I stayed on.
Yeah, thanks, Steph, for that. Yeah, that sounds so interesting. I think that what you said about being confident to ask questions, I definitely implore and encourage the listeners to be confident. Even if you're not the most confident person, just believe in yourself. And, you know, your tutors want to help you. They want the best for you because it makes them look good as well, right? If we all do well. But even besides that, a lot of them have a passion for teaching. They have a passion to help other people, to see you succeed. So do as you did, Steph. Do as Steph did and knock on their door, ask them, you know, can I have some of your time. In our university, we book office hours, so we book 15 minutes to speak to them. Do take up all of the opportunities, because I can guarantee you, as Steph and I do, it will really benefit you, right? And Steph, would you say that if you hadn't gone up to them and asked questions, would you have not really understood things as much?
Oh, definitely. You've just been on the wiser. I mean, there's so many things where you just want to seek further clarification. And rather than, I mean, I must admit, even at my time at university, I was still very much, as we'll learn when we continue talking, I wasn't the most confident person. But I appreciated, you know, the gravity of what was going on. Okay, this is me investing in me now. And, you know, if I'm unsure on something, you can ask your peers, which you do. But you want to go straight to the tutor. They're the ones that are going to be marking, you know, the material. So, most definitely, it's always beneficial. And they're always willing to help. So,
yeah, that's really interesting, Steph. And thanks again for your insights and really just setting the scene on the benefit of really taking up all of the opportunities that you have. So let's try to talk a bit more about your experience as a paralegal, right? Because I'm aware that you were a paralegal before.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So I paralegaled at a small high street firm in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I was pretty excited to get that job. It wasn't too long after finishing the LPC.
Right.
And I knew I enjoyed civil procedure.
Yeah.
I'd chosen clinical negligence, PI, personal injury as an elective.
I love
CPR. Yeah. And I love contentious law. So as a paralegal, I found a job working, like I said, small firm, doing road traffic accident, personal injury type work. So it's quite low value, high volume stuff.
Right.
And I was there for about 18 months. A lot of praying happened, and I really wanted an opportunity at a larger firm. And thankfully, an opportunity presented itself at Shoesmiths in their clinical negligence team. And I always refer to it as, you know, just a golden job that was presented to me with a bow on it. It was just exactly what I wanted. It really, really was. And I spent many years there working as a paralegal.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. That sounds so interesting. Where do I start really to comment on that? Because it's so interesting, honestly, and it gives a really, it gives such an insight, because you were talking about how you obviously left BCU and you wanted this job. A lot of praying happened. Obviously, you had a job at the moment, but then you wanted a bigger job or a job that was different, right? And you prayed. And for me, that really shows the value and importance of prayer. And you know, for me being a Christian, I am a praying woman as well, and I have seen the great results and effects of prayer. So I give God thanks. Even this podcast as a whole, God was the one who gave me that idea, and so thanks, Steph, for really echoing that, you know, that value of prayer. And Shoesmith is a wonderful firm, and you mentioned clinical negligence, and the reason I was so excited is because in summer of 2018, I actually went to Shoesmith's Birmingham branch to, and I undertook work experience in the clinical negligence sector, right?
Oh,
so I did.
Oh, wow! So you would have worked with colleagues that I know. Oh, wow!
Yeah,
fantastic.
So it's so fun. It was so interesting. It was such a valuable experience. And I say this because not only was it at Shoesmith, but clinical negligence was actually something really interesting that I was actually studying in law at the time as part of my A-levels. And also I actually got to sit down with a potential client and speak to them about what they'd gone through and how Shoesmith and the kind of the legal professionals could help them get from, you know, one step to another. Yeah. It was so engaging, such a beneficial experience that I will never forget. And that's why when you mentioned Shoesmith, my eyes lit up because I remembered my past experience. So thanks, Steph, for reminding me. Now, just briefly then, what is one highlight, would you say, of undertaking the LPC then at BCU? Or just even the LPC in general? In
comparison, I mean, you've probably heard this discourse that the LPC, it's far more practical.
Yes.
It is more practical, hands-on, rather than theory, which I preferred actually. I preferred, okay, you've got 2 business directors in a meeting, you need to give them answers to how they can do X, Y, Z. So it's more, straight down the line. It was more difficult because of the volume of the work in such a short period of time. But what I did do, and I had done for years to be honest, was I volunteered at a local citizens advice bureau, and I embarked upon that. I think I was maybe just after my first year at BCU. This was something that really appealed to me, because it's really important, right, to get yourself to stand out from the crowd.
It is, yeah.
Something interesting to talk about at all these interviews you're having. So for me, it was building up my confidence speaking with members of the public, because as a lawyer, that's what you're required to do. You're required to engage, to really develop those interpersonal soft skills, in addition to having a prerequisite of whatever knowledge. And at the CAB, I was advising, on various matters, but you're helping people and making a difference. So yeah, that was really insightful. And I was doing that whilst I was studying. Was I doing that at the same time? I can't remember now. But to be honest, there's not one particular thing of the LPC that jumps out, just because it was really difficult. And it took a lot of perseverance. But it was just an achievement to have completed it and to have done so well. I think it's determination, really. You need a lot of determination and a lot of motivation.
It's worth it in the end,
It is so worth it. And you just feel so proud, I think. After
you should, yeah.
Remarkable what you can achieve when you really put your mind to it. And I did. And I look back and I think, goodness, I cannot believe I did that, on top of working on weekends at Superdrug, so I can get a bit of pocket money. You just roll with it. You've got to get on with it, because that's what needs to be done. But I do look fondly back at those times. I do.
And so you should look fondly back at them, because they are such achievements, Steph, and I think that one thing I've learned about you through the course of this interview, that you are someone who's really dedicated, you're determined, and you'll do whatever you can really to get to where you need to be. And as you said that you were studying for the LPC and working at Superdrug simultaneously, that in itself is a lot, because the LPC is a lot, right? It's not an easy course, as you said, but you did that and you still worked. So that shows how you were dedicated, and how you said, what, I want to be a solicitor, I want to be a lawyer, I'm going to do whatever I can to get to this position. And I think for me, Steph, you show that in abundance, really. What's
really interesting, just to mention, when I finished the LPC, what then happened, of course, was my boss, Steph, now that you finished your degree, can I put you in for some more hours? And I had to say, I'm sorry, Julie, that can't happen. It's a full-time job looking for a job. So I didn't do that. I may have had the odd extra shift, but all my days were completely consumed with searching for jobs and making applications. I mean, it's so time-consuming in itself. What I didn't want to do is to then be consumed with my part-time job, which was really to just get me by, and then not have the quality time to dedicate to these lengthy applications.
Yeah, Steph, that's so true. Like, that really shows the power or the kind of importance of prioritizing. You have to prioritize what's important, because if you had taken that Superdrug job, you might not have been able to apply for as many jobs like in the legal sector, and then you might not be as far as you are now, or you might be, but you might be finding it harder to balance those things.
I wouldn't have had the energy.
You wouldn't. Like, it wouldn't be very time consuming, because me, I like to apply to I like to apply to a multiplicity of law work experience, but sometimes it's very tiring, along with studying for along with reading politics, right? Doing my essays and examination preparation. It's tiring to then do the podcast as well, search for law applications. You've got to split that time equally and think, okay, maybe I can apply for law work experience later on because the essays are in. Maybe if I interview one less guest speaker now and I interview them next month instead, I can then figure it out. Because I love podcasting, but I'm still reading politics. I love politics, but I've still got to get into law. So I've still got to split that time equally, right? And give myself that equal work-life balance as well.
And it's a skill, really, because sometimes you can feel as though you've got to do everything at 100%. And actually, in reality, it's not safe for your mental health too, and just you don't want to have a burnout. So you've just got to it's get into the habit and the routine of, okay, let's just prioritize things here, and what is it that needs your time.
Yeah, perfect. So then just really like delving into law then. So these questions aren't necessarily, I haven't given them to you, but I really think that the listeners will benefit from this. So earlier on, you mentioned making applications. So what can students do to stand out from the crowd? Because law is so competitive.
I mean, Faith, now the main thing